as a contractor, I think the cabinet industry is a little bit like witchcraft. Okay. Break it down for me a little bit. Help me understand a little bit more. There are thousands of different options.
Right.
Talk to me about what lines you rep currently and why, and what makes a good cabinet versus a cheap cabinet versus a, hey, that's fully custom Uber. Talk to me.
Right. So I think there's a lot of different components. The first is what type of cabinetry you're looking for. So I'll give you the 3 descriptions. So there's inset cabinets, face frame cabinets, and frameless cabinets. Inset cabinets tend to look more like a piece of furniture. So it's where, let's say you have a built-in, almost like a piece of furniture, like a dresser or like a wet bar or something like that, where the face frame is pretty thick and all the doors and drawers are inset into that. So they're actually almost cutting out those openings for the doors and drawers to fit into that. And so that's a very customized way to build cabinetry. It's a little more traditional in look, but it does look really nice, but it's also very expensive. So most people, if you go in and are remodeling a house, have not inset cabinets, but face frame cabinets. So there's a thin cabinet box that's usually 1/4 inch material, and then there's a thick solid wood face frame, and then the door closes over the top of that. The hinges are attached to the face frame. That's like 99% of what you see out there in the world.
Yeah.
And then the frameless or European cabinet box is a 3/4 thick cabinet box, and the door hinges are actually attached to that. And so some of the differences between the face frame and the frameless cabinet box is on the face frame, you'll see 2 doors next to each other, and oftentimes there's like 3/8 to 3/4 of an inch reveal between doors and drawer fronts. So it doesn't look very sleek. It honestly doesn't look that good, in my opinion. And then like the face frame cabinets, you'll open up a double door cabinet, and there's a divider that comes right down the middle, and you can't put that lasagna dish in there because it's too wide. So that's annoying for people and totally unfunctional. Whereas when you switch over to the frameless cabinet box, you don't have that issue. So up to 3 feet, you can have 2 doors that open and have no interior dividers or partitions, which from a functional standpoint is pretty huge. And then the door and drawer reveals on the frameless cabinets are usually 1/8 of an inch apart. So it's very clean, very sleek looking. It just looks nice. The hinges are better. They're like adjustable in every direction. It's just better quality stuff. And you actually end up with a little more storage space in the frameless cabinets than you do in the face frame. It's not much. It's sort of like in the 7 to 10% range, but hey, every little bit counts.
Yeah.
So those are your 3 basic cabinet types. And then in terms of what that material is constructed of, you either have plywood or you have particle board. And there's different qualities for both. Most of the cabinetry grade plywood is pretty similar. For the particle board, they actually have different densities. So you can get like a 20-pound particle board or a 40-pound particle board. And the cheap stuff, like the IKEA stuff, if you drive a screw into it, it'll just blow the material out because it's not very dense. The denser, higher quality particle board, you can drive screws into it and it holds, it binds. It doesn't actually blow that out. So that's one of the differences between cheap frameless cabinets and more expensive, nicer, more durable, better quality frameless cabinets. So, let's just take IKEA for an example. They do a great job with the design. Stuff looks nice. It's very contemporary, which I definitely lean more towards. But it's all made in China. It's put in on a boat, shipped over here. There's no quality control. Who knows where that material came from?
I don't think I'm going to get a sponsorship for my podcast from IKEA now, but go ahead.
Probably not. But do you want that?
No.
I don't either. No, IKEA has its place. You know, if you wanted to do some nice cabinets in your garage and you don't really care that they're not made in this country and who knows what the materials or glues or anything are in those products, and you don't mind putting them together yourself, great. Like there's a market for that. Yeah. But, if you want something that's durable, that's going to last, I would just stay away from that stuff. Of course it's going to cost more because you get what you pay for. And that's kind of the bottom line. So in terms of the quality of those cabinet box materials, then it gets into the air quality standards. And so the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, is who sets those air quality standards. And so a good cabinet company will say, our cabinets are CARB 2 compliant or CARB 1 compliant. And that just means that they're using either formaldehyde-free or lower-level VOCs and formaldehyde adhesives in that material that's being produced. Mm-hmm. And pretty much most of the quality semi-custom and custom cabinet manufacturers are going to be like CARB 2 compliant. That's just almost become an industry standard at this point.
That's good. So
you can kind of rest assured, no matter who you pick, you're going to be hitting that nail on the head, which is good. And then everyone else, or all the companies, pretty much do solid wood doors and drawer fronts. They're almost always 3/4 of an inch thick, so it's good durable finish, good durable product. So what I look for is I want to offer things that are sold in the U.S. and made in the U.S. I don't want anything imported. Now the raw materials may come from somewhere else. So for instance, when Russia invaded Ukraine, the price for certain materials like birch, ash, some of the beech, some of the materials that come from Europe, like doubled in price.
Wow. Because
that supply is not really there anymore, or it's challenged. And so some of those woods are going to come from Europe, but that's okay. Like they're still good quality wood products. So I like the companies that are made in the USA, have a lifetime warranty. The only way they can offer that is if it's a high quality product to start with. And that everyone uses pretty much the same quality of hardware. So like cabinet drawer glides, slides, hinges, all that stuff. Typically Blum is the company that provides that. It's been around forever. It will be around forever. There's a few other companies that make stuff that's decent, but you just, if they sell something other than Blum, you kind of have to go, well, why is that? Why aren't you using the one that really works and
everybody trusts?
And everybody trusts. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the cabinetry. And then we basically have 4 lines that we carry, and I kind of push people in the direction depending on what their needs are. So like this one company, Holiday Kitchens, which comes out of Wisconsin, they do really nice inset cabinets. Like they hand cut and fit everything. So if you want inset cabinets that look great, that's a perfect option. If you want something that's just a little bit more general, but has good choices in wood species, Canyon Creek is another one that we do, and they're out of Washington State, and they have some good wood species choices. Like if you want walnut and vertical grain Douglas fir, and some of the things that are a little bit harder to find, like that, and beech and birch, they can provide those pretty cost effectively. And it's all good quality, lifetime warranty type stuff. And they offer a builder grade line of cabinets too that's really nice for like laundry rooms, bathrooms, places where you just don't need to spend a lot of money.
That's something that's key in some of these is finding a line where you can mix and match the different levels that's appropriate to the areas that they're in. Yeah,
exactly. And then we have another one called DeWills that's also out of Washington State, and it's a smaller company.
DeWills?
DeWills, yeah. Okay. And they do, they're more expensive, but they do really nice, high quality stuff. I mean, every project I've done with them, it's turned out so well.
It's custom as well?
It is, yeah. And once you get into the more expensive wood species like cherry and walnut, they actually become pretty cost competitive.
Oh, wow.
So, they all have their pros and cons. And so I just try to gauge what the people are looking for and then push them in the direction of the company that's going to serve them the best, basically.
So that's 3 of the 4. What's the 4th?
The other one is Crown, and they basically they don't do frameless cabinets, and a lot of people don't do frameless cabinets. So I prefer frameless cabinets. All of these companies, except for Crown, do frameless cabinets. So that's how I pick them, and I research them to find out ones that I wanted to work with. Okay. So Crown does not. They have nice cabinetry, but it's all face frame. It's less expensive.
It's for different projects, right?
Exactly.
Whatever the budget needs.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of more of like a multifamily project. Like, oh, you got 30 apartments that you need cabinetry for, and we're just going to do face frame and call it good. And it's basic, but nice stuff. So so we just orchestrate or try to connect the client with the right cabinetry that they want to use, or that will serve them the best.
Because pricing cabinetry, that's where I'm kind of like,
right?
Okay, how do I get such a difference
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy because like a company like DeWill's maybe charges 30% to do painted cabinets, but a company like Holiday maybe only charges 5%. So it's not like the middleman has any effect on the price. It's just the company, for whatever reason, has decided that that's how they're going to go.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. If someone's like, well, I want to do painted cabinets, I'm like, okay, well, we're not going to do this company, but these two companies will serve you well because they're kind of the same in terms of pricing. But, oh, you wanted some glazing on that door to make it, make some trim pop out or something like that. Well, this company charges 25% for glazes and this one only charges 10. Mm-hmm. That's a big swing when you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in cabinetry. Yeah. So again, it comes down to kind of those basics of what people want.
So when you're talking cabinet budgets with your clients, sometimes people will say per lineal foot. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that when they ask you that? And how do you answer that question?
So it's hard to answer that. I mean, you have to have some framework to go off of.
Right.
I kind of just eyeball it and go, okay, that's going to be between 18 and 24,000. I just know it's going to fall in there. Yeah. Whether it's at the low end or the high end, a lot of it just depends on what finishes the person chooses.
Or how many rollout bases.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Are we talking about cabinets with doors and no drawers? Because that's pretty affordable. Yeah. But, you want a base cabinet with 4 drawers and rollouts and all this fancy stuff. Well, that one cabinet could cost $3,000. Yeah. And it could be worth it from a functional standpoint. But the cost can vary so dramatically. Mm-hmm. So I think you start with, I think linear foot's fine is for a baseline. And I kind of base a lot of it just on previous projects. Like, okay, this kitchen is, mid-size, but on the smaller end. And I've done 3 other recently that were like that. And they all came in within this range. And that's what I tell people. Yeah. And then it's just ballpark. Don't get attached to the low number. It's probably going to be a little bit more than that. But historically, this is what that looks like.
You don't need to blow the budget, on that.
Yeah. Exactly. But from your perspective, it's a tough thing to have to estimate.
Yeah.
And especially because, there are total differences. I mean, I've had some custom cabinet builders do some things that were so outrageously expensive. It took my breath away. I'm like, $2,000 a cabinet box? Like, really?
Why?
Why? Exactly. Yeah. And then I've had other people do custom stuff that's, half that. Yeah. And so it can really vary pretty widely.
Mm-hmm. So you're about products in the United States. Mm-hmm. What about local? I didn't hear any Colorado manufacturers that you're representing right now.
I reached out to some and I just couldn't find any that met the needs that I needed. Yeah. Either they didn't have good catalogs put together so that it wasn't a clear process of how I could choose stuff, what kind of modifications were available, that sort of thing. Or their pricing was just too high. You know, it's like, well, I'll ship it from out of state if it's going to be 30% less than getting it down the road. So you kind of have to work within the framework of what you got. And I've used some local custom builders, but again, that's usually like one guy who's been doing it for a while, who's really good. And, the guy I used to use retired. Yeah. Well, he's gone. He sold his tools on Craigslist probably. And
I have one.
Okay. So there you go.
Because there's times that you're like, okay, how do we best use the budget in this project? So it's like, all right, the kitchen and the primary bathroom, right? Okay. So, hey, we got the kitchen dialed in, primary bathroom. We could do this. Cabinet companies aren't great at doing amazing vanities. Right. So let's talk to our custom guy on this one vanity item.
Right, exactly.
And he's like, oh, and you're like, yeah, that's a fair price. Yeah. So, we like to mix and match oftentimes how we solve the problems.
Right. That's a great way to do it. Yeah. That's a great way to do it.
So since we're talking about cabinets, the last 6 years, 8 years, I've done too many white kitchens.
You and me both.
I can say that if you call me for a white kitchen, I'll gladly do it. Yeah. But it's not fun.
Right.
So tell me what you see is coming in the interior design, because you help out not just with the kitchen, but you have some interior design services that you offer to your clients with the architectural design. Yeah. So what are you seeing coming now that's still going to be timeless? Some of the design trends, and it has to do a lot around the kitchen, right, and other styles. So tell me your thoughts.
So this is something that I feel pretty strongly about. And, I'll walk through, for example, a tile showroom. And, they just have aisles of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool, but that's not timeless. That's really cool, but in 9 months, that's out the door.
Yeah.
This one I like, but in 3 years, I'm skeptical that this will still look as nice as people think it will as it does right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really hard thing. So I definitely prefer a timeless approach. I do not get caught up in the trends because I think it's doing a disservice to the client, because if they're spending $100,000 on a big kitchen remodel, they're not going to spend that again in 5 years.
Yeah.
It's got to look good, from my opinion, forever. So I tend to stick towards natural materials. A nicely finished oak wood floor is never going to look bad. It may need to be refinished, but it's never going to be out of style. I don't care if it's trendy or not. Maybe, a dark stained floor might be more trendy now and less trendy later, but, it can be refinished and restained. That's not a big deal. Same thing with masonry, stone, wood, like real materials, or at least things that look like real materials. For instance, ceramic tile can look super convincing. I mean, they can almost make it look like anything now, which is really cool. And as long as it is convincing and looks real, like if it looks like granite or marble or barnwood or whatever, that's a material that will last. It's never going to wear out or degrade. And so I lean towards things like that. I see so much trendy stuff and I just don't care for it, because I don't want to be responsible for creating the avocado green toilet, bathroom scenario that we all are ripping out from the 70s.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you're like, how could that have ever been?
How did they do this?
Yeah. How was that ever possible?
Yeah.
That they thought that was attractive?
Yeah.
But it was, but it was trendy.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on the white kitchens, and I think a lot of it is just functional. I've done a ton of white kitchens, and I'm like, look, it looks great for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
If the contractor is perfect when they install it, because it shows everything, literally everything. I did one a few years ago for a retired couple, and they're immaculate. They keep their house so clean. And I went in there not too long ago to look at some stuff, and they're like, boy, we're struggling with the white cabinetry. Like, it's constant upkeep, it's constant cleaning. I'm like, I know, and I told you guys that, and here's the disclaimer that you guys signed, saying that you are aware of all of the issues that this is going to have. So it's trendy, and I don't think long-term people are all that happy with it. So I try to steer them away from it. And even just painted cabinets in general, like those have been more popular lately, and they can look great. You have all these beautiful color choices. But they get beat up, and you can't touch them up easily. And, does it look as good as natural walnut? I don't think so. It won't last the test of time, probably. And, repainting stuff is not inexpensive.
No, sometimes going into remodels, people will have some cabinets like, hey, let's just repaint this. I'm like, to do this right?
Yeah.
I can pull those out and replace those boxes.
Right.
For not much more than it's going to cost to do a proper paint job.
Exactly.
It takes so many steps to do it right. And
Yep.
people just spray cabinets, but it's going to peel off when somebody touches it.
Right.
So I'm not a big fan unless they were like some really good boxes, high end, has everything in there, good design layout.
Right.
And it's like, okay, you know what? Let's take the time to make this beautiful again.
Right.
But it's not my ideal.
Yeah, exactly. And how many projects do you run into that are like that?
Yeah.
Usually the stuff you're taking out is junk.
Yeah.
or maybe not junk, but just has lived its life.
Yeah.
It's kind of beat up and kind of ready for something new.
Well, what keeps us going, your interior and your kitchens is people change their mind.
Right.
Styles do change, timeless is how long can you get out of this?
Yeah.
But some people will treat their kitchens like they do their wardrobes, and they want a new kitchen every 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
If you want, it's kind of a shame, but hey, that's what keeps it going. And it can be fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a project where we had a big kitchen island, and it's really prominent. So right when you walk in the front door, you sort of look off to the right and you see the face of this island, and it's on the backside where the seating is, but it's probably one of the most prominent parts of the kitchen, and they just didn't know what to do there, like what finish. And I was like, well, why don't we just do a vinyl graphic and cover it with a piece of plexiglass And then when you get tired of that, you can just unscrew it and print out a different vinyl graphic. Like you want to look at, some cool abstract version of trees and mountains or something. You can put that on there.
Oh yeah.
And then when that wears out, you peel it off and you do, the checkerboard or whatever you feel is popular and cool. So it gives people a little bit of flexibility, and they were open-minded enough to be like, yeah, screw it. Let's do it.
You did it?
Yeah, we did it.
Oh, wow. I wonder if they've changed it.
I don't know. This was a little while ago, so I haven't been back over to see it. Probably not.
Probably not.
It looked cool. It was funky.
Yeah.
But they could. That's the thing. They have the option. It's not like they spent $4,000 tiling that, and then they get tired of the tile in 5 years.
Building in some versatility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool into
Exactly.
the design. Yeah.
And we actually did that on a project with you guys, but it was just for the backsplash behind a cooktop.
Yep.
And so we just had a vinyl graphic put up and a piece of glass that's easy to clean. And then that client, she's in Boulder, she can just pull that off and swap it out whenever she wants. Yeah. And it was small, it's 3 feet by 4 feet or something.
Yeah. But tile behind a backsplash.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a gas stove and you're cooking.
Right.
The grout joints can get gross. I have it at my house. I'm like,
they will get gross.
When am I going to scrub that? It's my turn. I got to do that.
Right.
And finding the solutions in products to make life easier and more functional is always something that I try and find.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have better use of your time than scrubbing the backsplash.
Yeah.
Just do granite, just do a piece of stainless steel,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much a functional person.
Yeah.
Make it functional, but make it look cool too.
Yeah.
Make it look nice. But, everyone has to live in these houses. They're not museums.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the stuff you see in architecture magazines, it's like, does anyone actually live in this?
Right.
It's beautiful, but it doesn't look functionally appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like a comfortable house to live in. And we have kids. It's like they come in and dump their stuff, and like I just want something that a place they can hang up their things and a bench to sit on for them to put their shoes on, and then let's make that look nice.
I went and I was talking to my cabinet designer when I redid my kitchen. I'm like, I need doors that my kids can swing on. She's like, they don't make them.
Right.
I'm like, that's what you need to solve for, because that's what my kids do.
Right. Exactly.
So, well, hey, it's been great having you on the show, and I want to ask you one last thing. So where would you go in Boulder County out to dinner? What's one of your go-to restaurants?
Good question. I don't have a good answer to that because I don't go out to dinner that much anymore. I've taken on the role and the burden and the enjoyment of cooking.
There you go.
And, the last few times I've gone out to dinner, I typically go to Denver because it's easier to get to.
All right.
But
that doesn't count. I said Boulder County.
Yeah, exactly. The nice restaurants, they're expensive, and I feel like you really have to spend a lot to get something interesting and something better than I can just make at home. So I do a lot of cooking at home.
Well, that didn't answer my question.
I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did, but I don't.
Okay, well then you'll have to cook some good dinner and have us over sometime.
Absolutely,
absolutely. Right, we'll do that. Brendan, so if people ping us all the time and I say, hey, reach out to Brendan, how do they get in touch with you?
So we have a website, obviously. It's just skyhookdesign.com. And people always say Skyhawk, and I'm like, it's not Skyhawk. So Skyhook, Skyhook, so skyhookdesign.com. Just got the website redone not too long ago, so it's still a little rudimentary, but I'm constantly adding more projects when I have time to do that. And then, there's a Facebook profile or a Facebook page. We've got a Pinterest page, but really the website's kind of the best place to see stuff. So, and there's probably 2 or 3 decent commercial examples up there. And then I probably have maybe 6 or 8 residential projects that I'm constantly kind of putting new stuff up there. And then we also have a house account and a house page. So HOUZZ. So you can see stuff there as well.
All right. And you have a showroom?
Yeah, basically. So I've got a home office set up. I basically converted my formal living room and dining room into a office space and conference room. And it's pretty good. We have basically 3 or 4 workstations and then a nice conference room space. So I've got a ton of cabinetry stuff, lots of things to see in there. I tried to implement some of the design ideas that I use on other projects. So, and there is kind of a cool feature when you walk in. There's a mosaic wall on the back side. And it's basically, because we're in cabinetry, you end up with a lot of cabinet stuff over the years. And so I just hate throwing that stuff out. So I kind of made a collection of all these cabinetry doors and drawer fronts, and then did a cool mosaic on the back wall of all the stuff I've accumulated over time.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's a collage. It's amazing how well it pieced together just with what I had. I think I had to order maybe 3 infill drawer fronts to make it all work, but it actually kind of flows. So
that's cool.
So that was kind of fun.
I'll come and see it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right, great.
Definitely.
Well, cool. Hey, it's been a pleasure, and love to see and work with you, see your designs come across our desk, and I hope that we can continue to work with your customers and you into the future. So
yeah, absolutely. We've had some fun projects and great success with you guys. So always look forward to that moving into the future.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Definitely.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
You bet. Thanks for listening to Built by Insights. Tune in next Friday to hear more stories with a new guest.